It's no secret that as far as the Legend scale is concerned, I haven't really liked a lot of what DX9 has put out. Starting off with Hulky, it took a huge upgrade kit to fix the damn thing, and even then I don't think it's the best thing ever. Their Cup was terribly disappointing, and I still really don't like their Seekers. But of course, my stupid completionism got the better of me, and I decided to get their Doombringers set anyway, simply because it was cheap and I thought I'd grab it at the time. And that's when it surprised me. I was not expecting to love it. We got 3 rather fun figures, and although they have their faults, I was not expecting to like them this much. Originally, they released 3 2-packs with sort of Decepticons dispersed between them. Then they realized, oh, those are really hard to find, let's re-release them as 2 3-packs with some slight paint changes. The paint changes are so minuscule, and there's a couple of tweaks to the head sculpt to make them look a little better, but for all intents and purposes, they are the same figure. And, you know, the same positives, the same negatives. Starting off with our Resident Cannon face here, he's alright. Not great, not terrible, just kinda alright. Overall, the shape is very nice, and it holds together in some parts. The legs are nice and solid, although there's the waist swivel there. The paint is done rather well. We've got lovely shiny orange there, and nice silver back there. And the colours are done really, really well too. I'm also really glad that they managed to make this look interesting. See, I have the DX9 Masterpiece version, and it just does not look interesting. Unfortunately, in terms of the way everything fits together, it's definitely the least solid of the bunch. For starters, these don't peg in, they're just on ball joints. These don't peg in anywhere, they're just on ball joints and hinges. The arms don't peg in anywhere, they just sit back there. The waist swivel doesn't peg in anywhere, it just kind of sits back there. This bit wobbles around a lot. It's just not held together that well. And yes, this is an early DX9 figure, and this was coming out at the same time as those horrible Iron Factory alt modes, but still it wasn't ideal. They could have easily done that. One thing I can't really forgive though, because I can forgive the other ones, yeah, that back plate does not want to stay in there. The back plate's supposed to stay on there, and you're supposed to bring off the cannon for transformation, but instead the back plate just goes completely kaput, and that's a real issue. They should have glued that on. I don't want to have to glue that on myself. It should have been glued on out of the box. Also, I don't really like the cannon, but that's just me. Still, if you're taking it at face value, they managed to make this look cool, and considering how hard it is to get Galvatron's cannon mode even right, well, you know, props to them, I guess. And the amount of Galvatrons we have on the market, or Galvatrons that just look bland, yeah, good job. I'd have to say that the Space Boat's definitely the weakest of the 3. It's alright at the front section. Lovely blue metallic paint, and you've got the head up there, but I do wish that the sort of section at the top here fit out a bit further. And there's not much kill at the front underneath. But then you got the arms at the back here, and it's like, just why? Could they not have folded them into the body somehow? Was that really that necessary? Granted, this is very, very solid. Everything's nicely pegged in. And, you know, most of the time you'll be displaying it from the front anyway, but still, this is the vehicle mode. The vehicle mode should at least be solid in all designs. Again, I have to preface that with the fact that all of the Iron Factory alt modes coming out at the same time of these original molds, not with the re-releases, the original molds, they were pretty shit in their alt modes as well, but, you know, it's still a flaw. Out of the bunch, I think my favourite, and also what I'd have to consider the most solid of the bunch, it'd have to be Cyclonus over here. Lovely red paint on the windows, not a lot of paint all over the body, except for the ones provided for the robot mode on the legs here, and of course the feet there, which do stick out like a sore thumb, but it doesn't really matter that much. But the sculpt work on this thing is lovely. They haven't gone for a strictly G1 design, they've gone for a slightly IDW one, and by God, it really, really works. Just absolutely lovely. The underside is kind of Kibble City with the thighs, and especially the hands back there, and unfortunately the head does not turn around, but it's still a lovely, lovely design. The only gripe I can really give it is that these bits fall off way too easily. They are not parts forming pieces, they just weren't glued in. They should have been glued in. There's no customization here, so they should have just, you know, nipped it in the bud. For a size comparison, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not-so-standard LEGO minifigure, and crumbs. Transformations are dead simple, Hasbro Legends simple. They're really drawing influence from the Thrilling 30 designs. First thing you want to do is remove the cannon. Come around here and untab the legs like so and just rotate them down. Then you can bring out the feet and rotate the entire waist. Rotate this section up, collapse it into place, and these bits just fold up and they sort of lock into place on a soft ratchet. And that'll allow you to just bring the arms down with these kibble bits on the back. Nice Megatron all done. Very IDW inspired, but very nice nonetheless. Of course, not quite complete without the fusion cannon, so just stick that right there. Scourge is pretty much the most unfoldy Scourge you've ever met. Definitely not the cool designs that were in the sort of 2010 Generations line and also Titans Return. So you undo the kibble wings, bring the arms down like so, along with the wrists popping out, just like so. Then everything aligns forward, and as this pops up, you've got some nice automorph that pops out the head, which I do admit is pretty cool. Then the legs untab, rotate like so, and the feet pop out like so. Scourge is, well, boring. They could have done a lot cool with it like they did with the Titans Return version, but they chose not to, but given the size, it's kind of understandable. Cyclonus is definitely the most fun. You want to get rid of his gun, just off there. It's a bit tight. I realize I've had to mistransform the entire time, but these are supposed to be down. You fold these up first before bringing these sections down and untabbing. You also have to have the arms untabbed, but they naturally come untabbed anyway. You then come around here and bring the feet up, bring the wrists down, untab this entire section from the back of the head, and then rotate it down on that hinge. And then this is the really cool part. You take the entire torso and rotate it up, and that will allow you to access the lovely waist swivel. Again, another very IDW-inspired design, and it looks quite nice. And in their robot modes, yeah, they're basically small action figure versions of the IDW counterparts, except Scourge is a little bit more G1-inspired than the rest of them. They're supposed to be the Heralds of Unicron, but they're IDW and they're completely unrelated. So, hooray, that is what it is. Regardless of what their aesthetics are, they all do look really nice. You've got a primarily IDW-styled Galvatron, but they've gone for a more G1-styled head than the original release. But consequently, you've got a nice expressive face, but a lovely detailed body with all sorts of oodles of paint and all sorts of sculpted detail. I especially love the way that the chest contours inwards. The cannon, I'm not really sure about it being on the shoulder. Would have preferred to have been on the wrist. But I guess that's kind of where it's supposed to go from the G1 toy. I don't know, I can't remember. Backpack's nice and clean, although you do have the port just sticking out there. It is what it is. Would have been nice if you could store the cannon back there as well, but what can you do? Articulation's pretty solid. You've got a swivel on the head, ball joints here that act as the bicep swivel, but also a double joint if you really want right there. Waist swivel, ball jointed hips, ball jointed knees that act as the thigh swivel, and ball jointed feet that act as a little ankle tilt, which is rather nice. And Scourge is kind of, well, I don't want to say shithouse. He's not really shithouse. He's just underwhelming in comparison to the other two members. He definitely feels slightly more in line with Cup and Hulky than he does with these guys, but he does walk the line of being passable. I guess Scourge is always going to be a cape former, but the way they handle this just seems a little bit off. I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something doesn't seem quite right. The sculpt just feels a bit, I don't know, bloated? Something feels weird. I mean, he doesn't bring down the set that much, but still, it's a bit odd. Articulation is pretty similar, swivel at the head, although you do get a little bit of tilt if you activate the automorph there. Ball joint here, and a waist swivel there, ball joint, and just a little pivot over here, no actual tilt, which is unfortunate, but understandable given the transformation. But Cyclonus is lovely. Digging the IDW head sculpt, always love that. The chest has oodles and oodles of detail. Nice gun with some nice paint on it. Legs are done exceptionally. Yeah, he does have some of the more hollow parts of the set, but it doesn't really matter when you consider the transformation and the size. Just in general, he looks very, very dynamic. The only issue I really have with him is that his heel spurs don't really work very well. He's a little bit wibbly to stand up, even on the board that I've got over here. Aside from that, he's done remarkably well. The articulation's pretty similar. Swivel here, ball joint here, ball joint, another waist swivel, another ball joint here, except this is where it gets a bit different. He's actually got a dedicated thigh swivel instead of a ball joint at the knee, and then he has a super bend thanks to the transformation, which is quite lovely. This articulation doesn't do much though because there's just no support. And for a size comparison, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not so standard Lego minifigure, and Crumbs. I want to know where this kind of DX9 has been over the past few years. Yes, I've always liked their masterpiece offerings, but their Legends have been incredibly disappointing. Until now. Recently I've gotten their Soundwave, I've gotten their Optimus Prime, and I've gotten the Doombringers, and I've liked every single one of them. And now that just leaves me with a 3-pack of Ironhide, Ratchet, and Blur, which is the last thing I need to get before I've gotten everything that DX9 has put out. I don't think they're ever going to release the Predator King. They've merged into New Age now, so that's it, done deal. Now tomorrow it's another full review, jumping over to the other arm of the DX9 New Age Unique Toys conglomerate, with 2 figures from Unique Toys that I feel go a little bit away from their original ambition. Are they still good though? Well, we'll have to see.